Hey everybody, welcome back to When Creatives Thrive, a Create Baltimore podcast. I'm Stuart Rustin, and on this episode we feature Cheryl T. Goodman, the founder and director of the nonprofit organization Dance Baltimore, Inc. Cheryl is a native of Baltimore and a graduate of Carnegie-Mellon University. She has studied, worked, and performed in the professional arena of arts and entertainment since 1982, and specifically nonprofit arts administration since 1985. Through Dance Baltimore, her mission is to enhance the role of dance in the Baltimore metropolitan area by offering a variety of classes with a special focus on the adult dancer. Dance Baltimore also produces dance concerts featuring area professional dance companies and performers at the Baltimore Museum of Art, Gordon Center for Performing Arts, the Reginald F. Museum, Murphy Fine Arts Center, Theater Project, the Creative Alliance, and other venues. Cheryl is also published as a feature writer and critic in multiple national art and entertainment trade newsletters, online services, and magazines. And as your girl, Cheryl, she shares local art and entertainment news on the radio at WEAA, via her website, www.yourgirlcheryl.net, and the free online magazine she publishes, What's Hot in the DMV. But before we get started, please take a moment to like, comment, subscribe, anything that you can do to help us continue telling creative stories. Cheryl, welcome to When Creatives Thrive. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
So even with a really strong dance community here in Baltimore, do you feel like dance is something that we should be actively trying to reclaim, something that really anybody should be trying to bring back into their everyday life?
Well, yeah, first of all, I guess I would, strong dance community, I would start there.
Yeah.
Because I think the definition of that would be that there is a lot of dance in Baltimore.
Okay.
There are a lot of dance studios, there are a lot of dance companies, there are a lot of individual dancers. But unfortunately, there are not the resources available all the time.
Okay.
And dance, interesting enough, doesn't need a lot. You just need an open, safe space.
That's true.
To dance usually. And so as far as theaters space being available or open, safe space where the floor is workable, audiences, funding, any of that kind of stuff. That's the part doesn't exist as much for the dance community, particularly as it does for some of the other arts in the area. So strong dance community, there's a lot of dance that wants to be seen, that wants to be done. It just needs the places to be seen and to be presented in its best light. Because generally, you can go in the park and dance if you want, but at the same time, you can go on the stage at the Hippodrome and have lights and camera, and all that too. So there's just a variety of resources that let people see and experience dance in all sorts of ways, all sorts of levels.
Yeah, and in our first conversation, I just thought it was so impactful, this idea of dance being something that is fundamentally available to everyone at any time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I love what you said too, right? Like you could go to the park and you could dance, or you could get up on the stage and do it with big bright lights, but you're still dancing.
Yeah. And I always talk about dance to me is the original art form because, babies dance. They hear music, they respond to that, and their bodies just respond. So dance movement is all the same thing. And so I just find it a little sad too, that as we get older, we let the priorities of life, the needs as you get older, the physical needs and the money and the those kinds of things, rent, all that. We let all that get in the way, and then we sort of relegate dance to being something frivolous or something extra and all that. And it's really it's so beneficial on so many levels. Physically, mentally, emotionally. It does all that. It makes all that better. It can make all of that better. So it's really no reason to not include it, and then when I find that people include it when they're older, they're so much happier that they did. You rarely see, and I wish I could remember the quote Alan Alda, actually, the actor, said one time about people dancing, you're not sad when you dance. I'm paraphrasing, but you are rarely sad when you're dancing.
So true, though.
So the idea that anyone can do that at any time, and that we just have sort of weeded it out of our lives is sort of sad. That doesn't need to be the case. And the one thing I love about Dance Baltimore, the organization that I founded, it's been 24 years now, is that when the older people come and take classes or perform, there's such a happiness there, that you can't deny. They're so glad that they did it and that they're doing it, that it just makes it worthwhile, you know.
Do they talk at all, the people who come to your classes, just about the boundaries that they've maybe established for themselves, or the boundaries that maybe they've had to kind of overcome, even to get into a mental space where they say, dance is something I'm interested in. I'm going to dedicate a couple of nights a week or whatever it is to getting there? Like, what are the sort of things that people are working through to actually,
Yeah.
to participate?
Right, and particularly with the older dancers, I mean, because they have a lot of physical. We have a lot of physical situations we're dealing with.
That's true.
So as you get older, your legs don't work the way they used to. You don't have as much stamina, whatever it is. So you're sort of working through that. And we did a survey one time where we asked some people why they stopped coming to dance, and a good deal of it had to do with just physical ailments, but then also time. Do they have time between work schedules? A lot of times with family, if you have kids or you have a spouse who needs assistance, any of those kind of things. So it's just everyday life that tends to get in the way. So when we can do classes anywhere, so it doesn't always have to be on a Saturday afternoon at 8:00 in the morning. I don't think we've ever done that, because I'm not doing that.
Obviously.
Right, I'm not doing that. So, but, we'll do the classes in the evening. We'll do some in the afternoons. We'll do some on the weekends and during the week, whenever you can. And if it's just a one-time thing, you don't have to commit to, when you were younger and your mom put you in dance class and you had to go every Saturday at this time. We're not, adults can't really do that.
Yeah.
Right. So we try to work with a adult schedule. So it might just be 2 weeks of tango over here, or, a month of African dance, or, just a one-time modern dance class with somebody, with a really great instructor. So it can fit into your schedule. And usually a class might be only an hour long. But we've done many classes where we'll do just a day of classes. Each class is 20 minutes, just so you get a little just experience what this kind of style is like. And then you've got to go, you got to go. And then sometimes we'll do a 2-hour workshop. So, we're always going to try to work it out so that those activities of living don't get in the way. Like they say, life be lifing.
Yeah.
And it does. And so you have to work around that.
Before we hopped on, I just wanted to touch back on this because it was such an interesting conversation to me. It was this, you brought up something recently about skipping. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was online and I saw this video where they were asking adults to skip. And I thought that was sort of cute, but then I realized the adults were having a really hard time remembering how to skip. And the older they were, but I won't say it was all older people. And I just felt sad about that we would be that removed from our youth that some of these people look like they were about to fall down just trying to skip. But I actually had to get up myself and just in my apartment, let me make sure I know how to do this, before I start talking about these people, But, but that's a thing.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. Not to say now I'm going to go out of here and see people just skipping everywhere. But, at least I know that they're trying to regain their youth a little bit.
It's kind of sad though, like maybe it wouldn't be like the most conducive work environment if everybody just like skipped from like one meeting to the next.
Yeah,
but it would probably shift the mood, right? Like you were saying earlier, like you can't dance and be upset simultaneously. Like what would, I just wonder what it would be like a thought experiment, almost like if dancing was something that we were more regularly in tune with, and maybe we used to be, right, as a society, as a culture, as just a human race, we were more likely to be dancing. What would life be like?
You would be freer in thought, I believe, and you would be freer in movement.
Yeah,
because I'm surprised sometimes when people will come to a class who have not danced before or haven't danced in a really long time. And we'll just start off with rolling your head around or moving your shoulders up and down. And people are, I'm like, what are you doing? And they're moaning and groaning. And I'm like, have you not moved?
I know, it shouldn't be so hard.
Right. So even if you're just reaching for something in the supermarket, your body has to extend. You know? And so if you dance, your body is a little bit more flexible and you just have a more freedom of movement. You would think to reach out for that.
Right.
If you never move, then everything is just more compact, and then you don't experience just everyday things that you could be doing. Like bending over to pick up something is a big deal, so you might leave it there. As opposed to, if you're just used to moving, you would get up and just bend down and get it or something like that. So I do think we have put that restraint on ourselves and really shouldn't. And because I say a lot of times to people, everybody, well, Dance Baltimore's catchphrase is everybody dances. Whether you dance in front of the mirror when you're getting ready for work, you're moving a little bit, or you go to a nightclub. Those are two different things, but you're still moving your body. And that's the effort. You want to keep doing that. There's, as you get older, they talk a lot about just mobility, being able to get up out of a chair without having to press down on the chair or, and get yourself some momentum. It's going to matter later in life. So, we really stress dancing throughout a lifetime. So starting young and it doesn't always have to be as formal as a class or, enrolled in a program and all that.
Yeah.
But just some ongoing movement.
Well, speaking of lifetimes, I'm thinking about maybe taking us back a little bit to how you got first pulled into the arts as a lifestyle, really.
I don't even know. No, I can't say that. No, I'm going to blame my mother in a little bit because she really, she was very instrumental in insisting that me and my sisters really participated in the arts young. And even though she was a nurse, she was not an artist herself, but she participated in the arts a lot. And as I got older, I found out that when my mother was studying nursing in New York, she learned how to play the saxophone from jazz artists that were on the corner.
Oh my God.
She danced with Pearl Primus, who was a major dance, not in her company, but she took classes with her. She took acting workshops, and Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte were in her class.
No way.
And she talked about how they were both very arrogant. She didn't like them. She went to school with Sarah Vaughan. She said, I think Sarah Vaughan was a year older or something, and they used to walk to school together, something like that. But she had all these connections.
Yeah.
But she herself was not an artist, but she still had it within her life. And even as she got older, I remember her taking belly dance classes, and my father was watching her like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? But, she wanted to do it. And she was, I think, in her 50s or 60s at the time, so she just sort of created an atmosphere of the arts. And so when I started my degree from Carnegie-Mellon was actually, I went there for piano, to major in piano. And I thought I was out of my league when I got there, so I thought, let me do something else. So I went into writing. My degree was in professional writing, which gives you an opportunity to do a variety of things. But there were a lot of opportunities there. So I just tried to participate in a lot of different things. So I kept playing the piano. I just didn't major in it.
Yeah.
And, decided I would write, and I would write both creative and professional writing. So I wanted to write fiction, and I wanted to, so it was still this sort of arts bent to it. And, when I was younger, I had taken some other instruments, but I always had danced. I had started taking dance class when I was 3, apparently. So my mother tells me. I don't remember that. Okay. And that was just something I just kept doing all the time. So even when I got older in high school, when it wasn't as cool to do it, I maybe stopped for a little while, but going away to school, just always continued it. And when I came home, just found a company, a dance school, and I should say a dancer. I was intrigued by Maria Broom, who some people know. She used to be a newscaster on one of the major stations, and she gave it all up to study dance. And so she's sort of known in the city now as, we call her the dance maven. And but anyway, she had a dance class that was going on when I got out of school, so I would go to her class all the time. And just again, not necessarily that I thought I could be a professional at it. I think if I had started younger, that might have been something I would have wanted to do. But I got more on the administrative side of it. I liked dance, so I wanted to see it presented, and I wanted to see it presented well. So from taking class with her to just the kind of jobs I had with writing, professional writing, writing press releases, writing grants, writing, those kinds of things, writing for magazines, all of that sort of came together to be this some kind of way.
And so from there, how does Dance Baltimore get born?
Well, yeah. I call it by accident because it wasn't a plan. I had been working in arts administration. I think at the time I might have been, because I had worked at the Baltimore Museum of Art and again in arts administration. I think I was working in D.C. at the time, and I noticed how much dance there was in D.C., but I noticed that the same wasn't here in Baltimore. And I was just talking to someone because I had been writing some grants, and I was talking to someone who worked for a funding organization, just having lunch, and said, I wonder why there isn't more dance here. And I'd love to have a meeting of the dance people here and find out why. And she said, well, you can use my office. So we had this meeting, and we invited the dance community, and about 35, 40 people showed up. Dancers and dance administrators and instructors and studio owners, all that. And they laid out some things that they really wanted. And maybe a few weeks later, we get a call from the people who ran the Mechanic Theater downtown. That's now closed, but it used to be in Charles Center. And they said they would give us their theater, the dance community, the theater, for a free event if we wanted to do one. But the stipulation was we had to do it in the next 3 months. And so, I always say, you can't give me an opportunity like that, and I'm not going to take it.
Right.
So we just came together, a couple of the folks who were at that meeting, and we asked everybody who wants to dance, and we got a group of different, a mix, because we wanted to show the variety of dance that was in Baltimore. And we presented, they said it had to be free also. So we put it out there, and it sold out. I mean, you still had to register for a ticket, like within 2 weeks or something like that. And did the show, and I was sitting in the audience because I always like to, when I present, I like to sit and see it. And I was sitting next to the person who had given us this opportunity, Mark Sisman, because he was the head of that organization at the time. And as soon as the show started, he looked at me. I mean, like maybe 10 minutes into it, he just looked at me and said, "You can have the theater for 3 more years." And we were like, oh my, and the Mechanic held 1,300 people, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And we had filled it up, in like a 3-week period of time.
Do you think they were shocked? Was this do you think that they thought
everybody
that you could pull it
everybody was shocked.
Really?
I was shocked. Okay. So everybody was shocked. And we asked, all the dancers volunteered their time to do this. And interestingly enough, the Mechanic closed right after that, but the Hippodrome Theater opened, and Mark Sisman was a part of that. Gave us the Hippodrome for the next 2 years at no cost. And so we were able to do this great big Dance Baltimore performance. And then we realized, we need an organization. We just can't keep coming together.
Yeah.
Just, like the Little Rascals, let's put on a show. We can't keep doing that. So we, so we got it together and formalized it. And Nancy Harrigan, actually, Nancy's the restaurant, Kevin Brown's restaurant on North Avenue. She was a major part of letting us partner with her organization, GBCA, Greater Baltimore Culture Alliance, and helped us to, formalize a little bit so we could get it going, and was our fiscal sponsor and everything for a while. And then we just sort of took off from there. Yeah. So, but from that, that's the first one is the only time that we ask for volunteer dancers. After that, we always pay all the dancers, no matter what it is they do, because we're trying to support the dance community, not just use them as, something pretty over there or, something frivolous. It's an art form, and it's a profession for a lot of people who are here. And a lot of people here have gone on to do some great things on Broadway. They're in movies, they're in great videos, and they got their dance training here.
And so this initial meeting, this was all the way back in 2003, correct?
Yes. I think, started in 2002. The first performance was in 2003,
So it's been alive and well for quite a long time.
Next year will be our 25th anniversary.
Wow, congratulations.
I know. I'm like, who knew? Because it was not a plan to do this. So, it's been a really nice ride, though.
Yeah, I was just looking on the Dance Baltimore website, and I think this is an accurate representation of your relationship to the dance community and fostering just the wellness of that community. But it says Dance Baltimore is an arts service organization. I like that you put the service in there, right? Like that you are of service to a group of people.
Right. That's what we try to do, because we don't want to compete with the dancers in the area. We're not trying to, even when we do classes, we tend to do classes for a short period of time. There are a couple that we'll keep going on and on, but that's mainly to employ dance instructors and to create new works and things like that. But, we want to help, and we've done everything from provide performance opportunities to teaching opportunities to, we even have an emergency fund. So if something happens and we need to help you out financially, we've been able to do that. Some have had like medical issues because they don't always have insurance,
Sure.
or even they might get evicted or something.
Yeah.
Or we've helped some people go to school, some small scholarship, like not big, but just something that helps you with the
Yeah, anything
travel
helps,
or
I think.
your housing or something like that. So we want to be of service, whatever it is.
And what kind of joy does that provide? Knowing that you're in that position where people do look to you when they are in sometimes like times of crisis, it sounds like.
Well, for me, it's a lot of joy because I really do love seeing great dance. I can't do it myself, so I love seeing it. And if I can actually feel like I help that along,
Yeah,
then that personally, that gives me a sort of a personal joy.
sure.
And to know that, we've been able to to go to certain funders who may not have thought to provide for dance in the past, or maybe not in this way or whatever. So we're really grateful to like the Baltimore Community Foundation, the William Baker Memorial Fund, the Blostein Foundation. I'm going to try to name it, what's now Create Baltimore, what was
Yeah.
Baltimore Office of Promotion in the Arts, which actually back in the day, when we started, gave a lot of opportunities. We did. I know I spoke at a lot of events that BOPA had presented, and they're the ones who started. I don't know if I should say they or you, because it's the same organization now.
I don't know.
Well,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you all actually started the flash mob thing because when they were calling them flash mobs because around the country, young people were breaking into places and sort of robbing them like real quick, and they were calling it a flash mob on the news. So BOPA asked us to do at Artscape these performances, but they didn't want to call it a flash mob because of that connotation. So
sure.
they called it a dance attack. So our first couple of years, it was called a dance attack.
Wow.
But then I think the criminal reputation sort of faded away. Yeah. And you started seeing that dance flash mobs and vocal flash mobs and things like that on planes and airports. And it sort of came back to what the real meaning was. So we stopped calling it a dance attack and went back to calling it a flash mob. But we've done, but that came from you all. And we would do Artscape 3 or 4 flash mobs throughout the several days. And even though it was in July, and even though it was 110 degrees or whatever it was.
Yeah, we're probably pouring down rain.
Oh, yeah.
Into knowing our luck, yeah.
Yeah, we did it in the rain a few times, too. But it was always so much fun.
That sounds pretty cool.
It was. And,
Let's bring that back.
Oh, yeah. And what's fun is it's not only fun, because even though it looks random, we have taught a routine for weeks up to that.
Yeah.
It's fun doing it, but it's more fun watching the people watch us do it.
Yeah.
Because they're so surprised, first
Jaws
of all.
dropping.
Right.
Like,
and
what
then
is happening?
And they get out the way. Usually they get out the way. There's always this one guy who'll come and try to stand right in the middle.
No.
Just to throw it off,
Why?
know. And then you're dancing around him, you're saying to him, get out of the way, get out of the way, But usually everybody gets out the way. And they pull out their phones and everything, and they're just, all these smiling faces are looking at you. It's a really fun thing to do, and apparently it's a fun thing to watch. So
the first time we chatted, you told me that there was somebody that you had done, you did a flash mob, and then somebody came up to you and actually thanked you.
Oh, yeah. It was an older gentleman. And I think he might have been in his late 50s, early 60s. And he danced in the flash mob. And then I saw him later, just by accident.
Yeah.
Somewhere I had to go to an office. And he was in there in his suit and everything. And he said, I just wanted to tell you, I just wanted to thank you. And I'm like, why are you thanking me? For dancing. You did it.
Yeah.
You came out. And you did it, but he was thanking me for giving him the opportunity.
Yeah.
But I was trying to explain to him that he didn't really need us for the opportunity. He can dance. And I know it makes you feel more comfortable to have others around you.
Sure.
And it's definitely more fun. And I think this is so much camaraderie around people when they take a dance class. So I will say, this is an aside. If you feel alone, if you feel like you don't have any friends, or if you feel like you need to connect with people, go to a dance class.
Yeah.
Because you cannot not have a good time with everybody trying to learn the same thing, particularly a flash mob. Now, ballet, that's something different. That is not a whole lot of fun in a ballet class all the time. Yeah. Sometimes, but I mean, if you're starting off. But with a flash mob, the steps are usually pretty easy. The music is always something everybody knows. And so just learning it can just be a lot of fun with a group. So, so I'm glad he felt that way. I'm glad he enjoyed it. But I hope, it made him just realize that he could do that himself at any time.
Yeah, and at a place like Artscape, too, where there are so many people that are passing by and, like, the footprint is pretty large, so it makes sense to me that there would be multiple, occurrences, like maybe throughout the day or throughout the weekend or whatever. But yeah, just reminding people this is an option. Like even if I wanted to just, break it down, like it's like a safe space, like you were talking about earlier, right? These just sort of you feel welcome and that you can be yourself.
Right, and at the end of the flash mob, we always do line dance.
Yeah,
so even if you didn't come to a class, you know that. And then people feel like they jump in it and they do that. So that's another way we just try to get everybody involved.
How do people, generally speaking, like the people that are coming to either dance classes or just affiliating themselves with Dance Baltimore, like what's the audience like these days? Like any kind of challenges as it relates to just getting more people in the door?
Well, one of the reasons we started was due to the challenges. When we had that first meeting, when they offered us a mechanic, right before that, one of the challenges that the dance community was facing was audience development. And I remember going to see a dance company at Theater Project. And the company was out of D.C. and they were a well-known company. And there were more people on the stage than there were in the audience. And I was so embarrassed. And I felt bad, that Baltimore didn't represent better than that, And Theater Project has been a very strong supporter of dance over the years and of Dance Baltimore too. And so I thought, okay, we have to get more people in the audience. And over the years, I think because there's such a wide variety of dance in Baltimore, I mean, you've got just all different styles.
Yeah.
Even though people a lot of times think of ballet, and it's not just ballet.
No.
Back in the day, the Sun Paper had told us that they didn't want to promote dance in the Sun Paper because Baltimore didn't have a ballet company. And said, well, it's got everything else. And it had one, but it didn't stay. And even Alvin Ailey came here for a while, and they made Baltimore their second home for a while. But there was such a wide variety of dance. And there are people who will come to see it, but you just have to present it in a certain way. So sometimes that idea of paying for a ticket and sitting in a theater, it had to be, I guess, marketed differently for people to come. And so part of Dance Baltimore's goal was to get people, if you're involved in dance, if you take a dance class, if you like to dance, you're more likely to go to a dance concert. If you see it somewhere that you're maybe not expecting, you might be in the shopping mall and you see a dance thing and it makes you more comfortable with it, then you might be more apt to go see it somewhere else. If you see it on television, on one of the morning shows, so one of our activities, so we were just trying to make dance more visible. And so I think that's worked over time because there are more dance companies in Baltimore now and more efforts to present dance on stage. And I think the company Full Circle, a modern dance company, they're a little bit older than we are, actually. They just did a show at the Gordon Center, and the Gordon Center, that seats 500. There was a time Baltimore, no local company was doing that. There's another effort in February every year that's also at the Gordon Center. It's a Black Invitational kind of thing. They sold out the Gordon Center back in February. So now the audiences are getting more comfortable going to a place, a theater, and paying the money. And Theater Project still does dance, not just local. They bring in companies as well. And it's a smaller theater, but people are now feeling more comfortable and willing to pay money. I think once you sort of make it similar to go to a dance concert doesn't necessarily cost more than going to the movies these days. So once, I think an effort to demonstrate that you can go see dance and it's not always as formal as you think it is. It can be fun. It can be diverse. All different kinds of dance will be on the stage. You never know. And when we present dance, we usually always present more than one company at a time. And we don't tell people the order of the companies because people will say, oh, what time is so-and-so performing?
Yeah, and then they just show up.
Right.
And
we're not doing
off.
that.
Right, yeah.
No, if I got to watch you, then you got to watch me. So you're staying here through this whole thing.
Yes.
No, but that's how, I used to feel seeing little kids dance.
That's what I was thinking of too. For sure.
Right. When my niece would dance.
You show up at 2:20 because you know she's going to be on, and then by 2:40 you're, going out to lunch.
And I see people leave it. No, everybody stays here and watch all the little kids. So we're doing that for the adults too. And I think that worked a lot of times. We've presented, for example, one time we presented an East Indian dance company, and some teenagers were in the audience. And they had never seen that before. And they would not have normally gone to see that. Yeah. But in the music that the company was using, it was sort of a beat. It sounded like a little hip-hop beat a little bit. And the teenagers related to it. And they sort of were moving to it. And I was like, oh, this is good. And I could hear them because I was sitting behind them. So, that's something that they might go see again. Or they might be willing to stay and see. even if it's at a free festival, or whether or not they're going to pay money maybe when they get older. So some of it is a longer term kind of investment, but the idea is to get people just more comfortable with seeing dance in all different ways and being willing to pay for it, to support it, just like you would any other art form.
Probably also gives you a different kind of connection, like you were saying, to, just understanding how skilled some of these dancers are. You know what I mean? Like you begin to recognize, like, oh man, I am at a very, very beginner level, and I'm seeing somebody do something on stage that appears very effortless, but must have taken them however many hours of practice.
Definitely. I think part of going to class, once you start going seriously, you can go for fun or whatever, but if you're taking some serious modern classes or just, I think the goal is to always reach that.
Yeah.
And even at my age now, I feel like that's my goal, even though I know that's 100% impossible. But
it's a great mindset, though.
Yeah. But that's what you sort of want to do.
Yeah.
And when you go see some of these companies, I'm just amazed. And then when you see them after, when the dancers come off the stage, then they just look like regular people.
Yeah.
We went to see, because we sort of sponsor groups sometimes to go see different companies. I think Ailey was at the Murphy Fine Arts Center last year. And they did this fabulous job. And then afterwards they came out and they looked like some of the teenagers that were just in the audience. And everybody, I was really surprised. They look bigger than life when they're on the stage. Totally. And the things that they're doing are just so phenomenal. And actually a lot of dancers from Ailey, in particular, have come from Baltimore and DC area. I think maybe, I'm not sure right now, but I would say a couple of years ago, there were about 5 or 6 that were all from this area, having been trained at the Baltimore School for the Arts, or, just some of the other dance schools around.
Cheryl, I feel like we got to talk about this because I just find it to be incredibly interesting. And I'm also just, as we're talking, just again reminded of how tapped in you are to just not just the dance community, but it sounds like just the creative community here in Baltimore as a whole. Now, I don't want to like give away your alter ego here, but I want to talk a little bit about
Go ahead.
what's hot with your girl Cheryl.
Yeah.
What
is that? Where did that come from?
Tell me, because there's a radio show, there's a magazine, there's a mailing list. What is that, and how did this other persona, this other side of you, or is it all one whole thing come about?
Actually, it's one whole thing.
Yeah.
And it actually predates Dance Baltimore. And I remember when I was in school, I think I told you, my major was piano.
Yes.
And then when I realized I couldn't do that and I was going to go into writing, and I decided then I did not want a 9-to-5 job, but what I wanted was something that I would do all the time that I just enjoyed, so it wouldn't feel like work. That was my professional goal.
Another good philosophy.
Okay. I don't know. Okay. And people are like, you're not going to make any money at that, but okay, you can try it.
Yeah.
And so I was, one of the earlier jobs I had was I worked at the Afro-American newspaper, and there was they started a special section called Friday Plus, which was all about art and entertainment in the area, and it was just me and a photographer at first, and we really had this great bond. We wound up being best friends actually to this day, and so my job was to find out what was going on around town, and it was a 16-page supplement that would go into the newspaper, and so I was covering visual art exhibitions and dance and theater and, live music and all that kind of thing. And then one time I wrote a little piece in there called What's Hot and What's Not. And I was driving down the street one day and I heard the guy on the radio reading the article I had written in the newspaper. And, once my head exploded out of the car,
exactly.
I was like, okay. I thought, oh, well, that's sort of cool. So that always stuck in my mind to do. And then, I've always just continued with the writing and wanting to promote, because like I said, I don't really feel like an artist myself, even though, I do a variety of things, but I'm not a professional artist. I will say that. I don't make money at the art form itself. But I want to present, when I see it done in such great, with such great expertise, I want to share that. And so I see in Baltimore some great writers, I see great musicians, I see great dancers, and just everything. And Baltimore gets a bad rap a lot of times. Oh, there's nothing to do in Baltimore, or Baltimore is this or that. And there is so much real great talent here and places to see it. And so I wanted to share that. So I'm trying to think what started first. I'm not sure. Oh, I was writing, my professional writing degree was writing grants for WEAA radio. I was helping with that. And they wanted to do a calendar of, what's going on around town.
Yeah.
And they had one of the students reading the calendar. But, she was maybe 18, 19. And because she wasn't familiar, she was sort of mispronouncing a lot of the names of the artists, I forgot how she was pronouncing Wynton Marsalis, but it was not right. And so I said, hold it. No, we can't put that on the air. So I was trying to correct it. And then they just said, well, do you want to do it?
Yeah, exactly. You just do it. Take out the middleman.
Yeah. So
you do it.
A lot of my professional successes have come from accidents. so I'm like, okay. So,
or maybe right place, right time.
Yeah, okay,
or,
we can think of it that
is,
way.
It does, you're right.
Okay. And so I started doing the calendar, and I asked my younger sister, I said, I'm going to call myself Your Girl Cheryl. What do you think? Because she was my arbiter of cool at the time. You know, I said, if you say it's okay, because she was 8 years younger than I was. And she said, yeah, that sounds okay. You can do that. So that's how that started. And so my radio thing was only for the weekend. Hi, it's Your Girl Cheryl was hot for the weekend. So that was very limited.
That sounds good, though.
Yeah,
that sounds good.
I practiced that. So over time, I wanted to be able to talk about more than just the weekend. Yeah. So I started doing this magazine. And because I had been working for the newspaper all those years, I used to photograph a lot of the arts that I would go to, a lot of the events. I talked to so many people, I knew folks. So a lot of times I didn't have to research a lot. I can tell you just what's going on in different places. And some things in Baltimore, a lot of things are annual, and a lot of locations do certain kinds of things. But I wanted it to be very curated. Yeah. On WEAA, the person one of my mentors was a guy, Marcellus Shapard. I don't know to forget his last. Anyway, he called himself the bass man. And so he would call me the concierge of the city. And my Your Girl Cheryl thing I was the concierge of the city. Wow. So I said, well, if that's the case, I have to be responsible for what I say. I'm not just telling people all these things that are happening. These are things that I believe will be fun or that you will enjoy. And particularly as I get older, for a 40 and over group, because they have a lot of issues. They don't always want to go out at night. They don't always want to, just do things where it's too crowded or, want to be affordable, those kind of things. They're not going to spend $500 on that Beyonce ticket. So, you know what I mean? Maybe not. Older people function a little differently. So Your Girl Show was sort of geared towards that. And I remember going to one of the concerts that I had recommended on the show in Prince George's County. And there were some ladies there. And as soon as they saw me, I guess they heard that's who I was. And they came up and they said, oh, we only came because you said to come to this.
Exactly.
And that was the first time I really realized the responsibility of it.
Totally. And sort of the power too, right? Of when people really do trust your opinion.
And there's actually somebody listening. You don't always think that there is.
Exactly. Is there someone on the other end of the...
Right.
Yeah. Right. And clearly there is.
Mm-hmm. So the magazine sort of came from all that, and just I'm able to do like a 2-month kind of thing at the time in a magazine, and just things are going on. So it lets me get my writing in, and it's a digital magazine, so it's online, and I love doing
it. Looks great
layout. And a friend of mine keeps saying, use AI. You don't need to do that by hand. I like doing it myself, you know, even though I know I can do it using AI, but it's. I like that people like it. People respond back to it, and they feel it's informative. That's an important thing, that that they can get something out of it.
I mean, just looking through it, like you were saying earlier, it's not just dance, right?
Oh yeah, dance is not in it that much. A little bit. I try to put. Let me not say that. I try to put all art forms in it every issue. Yeah, and there are some just things that stand out, and because it's a digital magazine, there's video in it. So I mean, and the goal too is to get people to go out and enjoy the city. I mean, you can stay at home, but I don't print a lot about what's on Netflix because that's too easy to do.
Yeah, and they've got their own marketing budget. They don't need anybody else. Yeah, I like that. It does feel very robust, but it also feels very kind of organic. Like the people that you are highlighting, the events that you've sourced and included, they feel like they could use probably a little bit more highlighting, and it doesn't feel like you've just picked the easy answers. You really feel like you've kind of gone and done your research,
good.
done your
Yeah.
homework, you know what I mean? And there are things where it's like, oh wow, I've through you and through your hard work, I've discovered something new.
There are some extremely talented, particularly musicians and vocalists, and really everybody. I can't even just pick an art form. Very talented people here. Now, whether or not they get that break, or whether or not an opportunity comes to them to go national or international or make a lot of money, I don't know. But years ago, I remember there was a artist here. I think her name was Alita Green, if I'm not mistaken. And she was excellent. Everybody used to ask her why she didn't go on to New York. And she said, I just don't want to. She said, I like Baltimore and I want to be here. I remember her saying this. She might have changed her mind over time. I don't know. But I remember at one point, she wanted to stay here. That was her goal. Yeah. So sometimes it's about what is your goal. Yeah. And if your goal is just to be, some people just like to perform. They don't care where it is. They're not trying to be in LA. They're very capable and comfortable being here. And so you do get some really high quality entertainment here. And I can say I've been to see, national artists as well. And I will say, I can't say that I have a better time other than the production might be more elaborate. Sure. One of my favorite groups is Earth, Wind & Fire. And I've seen them many times.
Yeah,
and
they
I
can
love
pull out all the stops.
And I love that. But there's an area group here, In Gratitude, a tribute to Earth, Wind & Fire that I work with. They are wonderful. And the show, and a lot of times when you see the show, sometimes you have to listen to realize who it is, But the only biggest difference is really the light show. There's not as much smoke on the stage.
Fireworks at the end.
Right, that's all. Verdine is not jumping up out of, So that's the only real, but if you just want to see a great show, music that you like or that you're familiar with or even discovering new people. Sure. Because what's greater than saying, I see a lot of times somebody big and then in the comments on Facebook will say, oh, I went to see them when they were in high school and that kind of thing.
Those are some of my favorite memories too, when before they blow up and you're there, you're there to see them. Yeah, and you can kind of stash those away as like some, special sort of experiences. Well, listen, Cheryl, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. I was kind of hoping, and maybe this is too crazy, but I was hoping that maybe you could do a little outro for me, but as your girl, Cheryl.
I definitely can. Okay. Because I do want people to, check out all the art that Baltimore has to offer, and you can get everything, learn all the information you want to find out from yourgirlcheryl.net. Just go on the website, check it out. There's always a listing there that tells you everything that you want to hear. And if you want to check me out on the radio, I'm on WEAA 88.9 FM. So just check that out, weaa.org. I'm your girl, Cheryl, and thank you so much, Stuart, for having me.
Thanks so much to Cheryl for joining the podcast, and thanks to you for listening. Remember, if you are a creative person with a story to share, reach out to me at srustin@promotioninarts.org to be featured on the pod. And as always, when creatives thrive, we all rise.